Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where we're doing hard things together. And today I'm going to talk about my experience with cutting caffeine and how I feel now after having caffeine cut out of my diet for the past 2 years. So today, the day that I'm uploading this video, August 8th of 2024, is my 2-year anniversary of cutting caffeine out of my diet. I recently shared a few months ago in another video my struggle with addiction. And caffeine was one of those addictions. And 2 years ago, I decided to cut it out of my diet completely. Now, granted, at the time when I decided to do that, I was just going to do it for 100 days. I had done it for 100 days before. And I truly felt the benefit of cutting caffeine out of my diet, but it's always been the easiest habit for me to pick back up. And so I went into it thinking that I was going to cut it out for 100 days and then I would probably pick it back up. But the goal was, when I started drinking caffeine again, I was going to try to be more mindful about how much caffeine I was drinking and not get to where I was when I decided to cut it out. Now, at that point in time in my life, I was drinking a minimum of a gallon of sweet tea a day, but there were a lot of days where it was upwards closer to 2 gallons that I was drinking in a day, which is a lot of caffeine, and that is a lot of sugar. A lot of sugar. I will go ahead and state that I don't drink soda unless I cannot handle the carbonation of it. And I rarely ever drink coffee. I'm not a big coffee drinker. There are certain coffee drinks that I would get on occasions, but coffee definitely wasn't a daily routine for me. Yeah, so just in sweet tea alone, if you think about it, I was having at least a cup of sugar to 2 cups of sugar a day, probably more, because I most of the time would buy my sweet tea. I got to a point where I knew I was getting out of hand, and so I stopped making it at home, thinking, okay, if I don't make it at home, I'll consume less of it. I didn't. I consumed the same amount, if not more. I was just spending more money to consume it. So August 8th of 2022, I decided, hey, I'm going to cut this out for 100 days. I know it's going to be hard. I've already done this before. I know how this goes, but I'm going to get through the hard part. I'm going to get through having the migraine from not having the caffeine, not feeding that addiction, and we'll move forward from there. I did it. I hit the 100-day mark. And when I hit the 100-day mark, I was like, you know what? I've made it to the 100-day mark. Let's see how long I can go. And here we are 2 years later. So I just wanted to tell you some of the benefits that I have had with cutting caffeine out. And I know caffeine is one of those things where people are like, I cannot give up my coffee. I cannot give up my soda. I cannot give up my tea. Whatever your caffeine of choice is, or whether it is a combination of things, people do not want to give it up. And I completely understand, and I can completely relate to that feeling. But I want to share with you some of the benefits that I had from giving it up. Now, in the beginning, when I gave it up, I did have a horrible headache that turned into a migraine. That is normal for me when it comes to giving up anything that I've become addicted to. It's my body's withdrawal from it, I guess. So I know that's coming. I was prepared. Took my ibuprofen. Tried to drink a lot of water. I tried to drink a lot of liquid IV, which has become pretty much a staple of my diet at this point. And now I love it. And that has been a game changer for me as well. But I noticed the longer I went without caffeine, the less headaches I overall had, because I had headaches pretty regularly, and I got to a point where I was having migraines pretty regularly. And over the past 2 years, I know that there has been a few things that I can relate that triggers them, but I definitely don't have them as frequently as I did when I was drinking caffeine every single day. So yes, the initial headache when I was cutting caffeine out of my diet was horrible, 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 but it did get better. And it's rare that I get migraines to the point that I had them when I was regularly drinking caffeine. Another benefit that I noticed was I actually, believe it or not, had more energy. And I worried about this because I work night shift. And so the sweet tea is what kind of got me through the night shift. And I talked to a lot of night shift people who are like, I have to have my coffee. I can't get through a shift without my coffee. So I had a feeling that that was going to be hard, getting through night shift without the caffeine. To be honest with you though, it was so much easier. I have way more energy now not having the caffeine than I was having the caffeine. So before I was drinking a lot of caffeine, I would still feel really tired during my shift. There would be periods during my shift that I would struggle to keep my eyes open because we would have like a slowdown period. And I don't really have that anymore. Once in a blue moon, I will, but typically when that happens, life is just really stressful and I'm not eating or drinking or sleeping or anything. And I'm just burnt out. But I definitely feel like I get through my shifts a lot better now that I've cut caffeine out. Another benefit, I stopped having heart palpitations. Now, I had gone to the doctor about it because I felt like that I was just having them a lot. And I think the caffeine was contributing to them. And I think seed oil was contributing to them as well, the combination of the two. And we're still working on cutting out the seed oil. And that's going to be in a different video coming up. But when I cut out the caffeine, I noticed that I was having less heart palpitations, or what felt like heart palpitations. I had studies done. I wore the Zeo patch and everything. And they said everything came back fine, that my heart looked healthy, but I wasn't having that heart palpitation or that fluttery feeling as often. Another benefit, I was less anxious. Still have anxiety and everything, but I was less anxious than I was when I was constantly drinking caffeine. Which I've learned over the past 2 years as I've played with things with my diet, how much of our diet actually does contribute to our mood. And it's really fascinating to see. But yeah, so less anxious when I cut out caffeine. Another benefit, I have endometriosis, and when I cut caffeine out, my endometriosis pain went down a great bit. I still have a lot of intense pain and everything, but every month isn't crippling. So that is a huge plus. That alone in itself, that and not having the migraines as much, between those two things, and that should have been enough for me to not ever want to put caffeine in my body ever again. Like the first time I discovered it, but here we are. We finally reached the point. For my girls out there, for my women, for my ladies, I had less chest pain. There I would be very, very tender and very sore, especially during that time of the month, but I would have a lot of chest pain and everything, and that went away. I can tell you that in 2 years after cutting caffeine out of my diet, I might have had that tenderness maybe 3 or 4 times. in comparison to every single month and randomly throughout the month. So that again is a huge benefit. Another benefit was I started sleeping better. I struggle with insomnia. It's something that I've been working with my doctors on for quite some time, for years. But compared to what I was sleeping compared to how I'm sleeping now is a lot better. I wake up a lot less in the middle of the night. And I will say that since cutting caffeine out of my diet, I don't have to get up and use the bathroom in the middle of the night as much as I used to. Majority of the time, even if I were to drink a gallon and a half of water, I do not have to get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom as much as I did when I was drinking the caffeine. I also feel like another benefit is I'm just more hydrated. A lot of people don't realize that caffeine is very dehydrating for you, which I think was also another reason that I had as many headaches as I did, because even though I was drinking a lot, I was also drinking something that was not hydrating necessarily. Definitely started sleeping a lot better. Definitely started sleeping longer and not having to get up to use the bathroom being the reason that I was awake. So yeah, giving up caffeine was truly an amazing thing for my body and part of my healing journey. And if you struggle with some of those things, I would encourage you to try it. I know, like I said, it's a hard thing to give up, and it's probably the one thing I hear a lot of people say the most that they can't give up. But if you're feeling led to give up caffeine, if you want to try it to see if it changes how you feel, I definitely encourage you to do it. I'm 2 years in and I plan on going 2 years more. There are times that I crave it still. There are times when I think I really want a good glass of sweet tea. But one, I know not having it for so long, I'm not gonna like the taste of it when I first have it. It's gonna be very disappointing. But two, I already know that is a slippery slope for me, and I just don't want to do it. I hope that, I would like to say that one day I could get to a point where I could occasionally have it and it'd be good, but I feel like right now my best bet is just to keep it out of my diet altogether. I can't think of any benefit for me to add it back into my diet. I feel too many wonderful benefits with it being out of my diet. To each their own, I know, but I just wanted to share my experience with you. If it is something that you are considering, go for it. See, it may make a huge difference in your health and with some of the things that you are feeling, and you may not even realize or associate it to it being the caffeine that is causing that, but it is, but it could be. So if you have cut caffeine out of your diet, whether it was for a month, whether it was for 100 days or 6 months or a year or anything, and you really felt the benefits of cutting out the caffeine, comment down below and let others know. I know when I'm researching things, and YouTube is one of my sources that I go to, I read a lot of the comments because they can be very, very helpful. So yeah, definitely, if you've been on this journey and you've had a lot of benefits, share your benefits down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you a little bit, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.